So I did my project on Edward Higgins White. Alright, so before he became famous for being the first American to walk in space, Edward White was born on November 14th, 1930 in San Antonio, Texas. His father was in the United States Air Force and would take White in an old T-6 trainer when he was 12, and his father let him take control of that plane. White would tell uh, from this experience that it was the most natural thing in the world to him to do. White would end up following his dad's footsteps because he would go and join the Air Force. He would graduate from West Point in 1952, and he would earn his wings to fly the F-86 Sabre and the F-100 Super Sabre jet fighters while he was in Germany with his wife and kids. As the time was going on, there was a thing called the space race. I moved that. So the space race would begin when Russia would launch their first artificial satellite known as the Sputnik 1 in 1957. White would come back knowing from this experience that everything that he has done so far would lead him to space. So White would leave Germany with his family to come back to the States to get a master's degree in aeronautical engineering in 1959. He would end up earning his test pilot credentials, so he would test pilot for cargo ship planes for NASA, and he would pilot the cargo planes that were used to train astronauts for zero gravity environments. And after the Mercury program that NASA did, they were all getting ready to send more people up to space, and White would be one of those people. This is where White would be known as the first American spacewalker. White would be on the mission known as Gemini 4, and this was going to be a 4-day flight that would include the first spacewalk ever. But to everyone's surprise, Russia would get to that first. And they did this because the US was closing the gap between the two during the space race. So on June 3rd, 1965, White would become the first American to walk in space. And he would do this by holding onto a cord, and he would maneuver through the zero gravity environment for 23 minutes. Then disaster would strike. NASA would name the astronauts who would be part of the first Apollo mission, and White would be one of these people. The first Apollo mission was a mess because the US was pretty cautious of Russia and the Soviets because they weren't making a sound during the whole Gemini program. So they were trying to just get it to go so they could be the first ones on the moon, so they can be ahead of Russia in the space race. And the astronauts would also come down with a thing that they called back in the day go fever, which means they wanted to go then. They were ready. They wanted to just go up to space. But according to other memoirs from one notable astronaut, Alan Shepard, he said that spacecraft was not even supposed to go up to space yet. It was not even ready to be flown. And it would be proven right because leading up to this disaster, all the astronauts would find something that was wrong with the spacecraft. But they were in such a hurry to go that on one of their test flights in January 27th of 1967, the spacecraft would catch on fire, which would kill all the astronauts on board. After this would be the first and final NASA had of a fatal training accident, and why it would be encoded in the golden record on the Voyager spacecraft so that his 23-minute of awe of a spacewalk would be remembered for a very long time. These are all my resources that I used for this presentation, and hope you learned something about them.